light this chalice to celebrate our Unitarian Children's Chapel. We are the chapel of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. How has your week been? I hope you're keeping safe and well during these times, and now is a good time to share a joy or concern. Have a think about the things that have helped to bring joy to yourself and others. And perhaps if you have any concerns, it's a nice time to share them. I should pick a pebble again. Forgot to bring my pebble. My joy or concern. Do you know, I didn't plan one. And not one springs to mind straight away, so you're going to have to help me and share yours. Have a think what your joy or concern is. I think actually, to keep on theme, my joy has come this week from some bulbs, tulip bulbs, that my neighbour Shamba had salvaged. He'd rescued them. Someone was moving house, or a garden was being redone, and they were just going to be chucked out. So he got them and he said, would I like them in our front garden, which seemed very generous. And he even planted them in with some special gravel that they like around them in the soil, and they've turned out this beautiful red colour. They're giving so much joy. And my neighbour who's worked with him, they've worked together to come to a design for the garden together. That's my joy this week. I'm curious to know yours, so do share it with your family or your friends. And if you're speaking to your granny or granddad on the phone, perhaps you can share it with them too. This is the story of the boy and the lily, and it was written by Thomas Rhodes. Once upon a time, there was a boy who lived with his grandfather, just the two of them, and they lived in a house that was never cleaned. It was very dirty. One day, the grandfather went for a walk with his grandson, and a stranger appeared to them. The stranger was very kind, and he gave the boy a lily. And the boy was very glad to be given this special flower, this nice, beautiful flower by a stranger, and he took it home and he put it on his windowsill. And his grandfather noticed that he'd put the flower on the windowsill, and he picked it up and he put it in a vase with some water so that it might grow better and last for longer in the vase. When they looked at the lily every day and it was so beautiful, they noticed that the window was very dirty. So they cleaned the window and they could see out into the beautiful garden. And the boy said to the grandfather, why don't we go and plant some flowers outside, or some seeds that will grow into flowers in our garden? And so they did. The boy and the grandfather went outside and they planted lots of things. And in the spring and the summer, the flowers came, the tulips and the daffodils. And they were so happy, and they forgot about the lily just for a little while that stood on the windowsill. Over time, the lily died because it couldn't last in the vase, and the garden grew brighter and brighter, and neighbours came and they saw the beautiful flowers. And they said to the boy and the grandfather, "We love your beautiful garden, it's so beautiful." And the boy made some friends, and the grandfather was happy to work in the garden and look after the flowers. And even though the lily that had originally been given to the boy by the stranger had died, the memory of the lily lived on because the garden was so full of beautiful, beautiful flowers. And that was the story by Thomas Rhodes. And I think that's a beautiful way to think about Jesus and to think about Easter. It's Easter weekend, and we remember Jesus coming back to life, the resurrection it's called. And we remember him during this time, even though he was crucified and buried, he rose from the dead. And this is a great way to think about Jesus through the lily representing Jesus, and the garden representing how we all live. And we all can be a bit more like the boy and the grandfather, being inspired by Jesus and making sure that there are flowers and colours and a whole array of beautiful things in the spring and the summer and all through the year in our gardens to share and to make friends and to make beautiful places. Is there someone you miss in your life? I miss my granddad. He always stopped to smell the lavender, and he taught me all the names of different trees. And he even taught me how to count up to 10 in French. But when I think of those things today, I remember him. What do you think of your garden and how you share with others? Is there something you'd like to do or make? Maybe you've made one of those lovely rainbows in the window for people to look up to, a bit like the lily, to say thank you to the NHS for all their hard, amazing superhero efforts during this time and surrendering themselves, if you like, suffering for others to help others. What kind of things could you put in your garden to help bring happiness to others? And what would you like people to see and be remembered for? Have a think. You can tell your parent or carer. What might they like to do? What could you do together, like the grandfather and the grandson? I'm sure you can find lots of ways to have open hearts or open minds and helping hands. This is a simple activity that you can do at home. Hopefully you've got some seeds that you'd like to start off indoors. It could be very simple things like forget-me-nots or wildflowers, or even something that will grow into food like tomato plant seeds or beans, easy to grow in a windowsill box if you don't have access to a garden. Here I've got a biodegradable pot. I filled it up with a little bit of soil there. Last year I passed on Belsize Lane, you might know where that is, parents and carers, some beautiful hollyhocks, and they always have the most beautiful seeds as well that sort of grow in a ring, and they just grow wild, and the seeds fall down into the soil around the tree, and the hollyhocks use the tree to stand nice and tall, and they have beautiful flowers, pink and reds and whites. So I harvested a few in my bag when I went out for a walk, and they've dried, and hopefully they're going to grow again. You could just scatter them direct into the garden, which is also another lovely thing to do to make a seed bomb, by putting some peat together or some compost together with some seeds inside, making a hole and throwing it into the hole and just covering it up and seeing what comes. But today I was just going to put a few of my hollyhock seeds into the soil and see if they grow. So I've put them there. They're beautiful, aren't they? They've got a kind of crescent, not crescent, what do I mean? A colour around on the outside, the two tones, beautiful. So if I just get a bit more soil, I've got a bag here. There we are. I've just covered them up with some soil, and I will go and give it some water, and I will put it somewhere warm, but not too warm, and over the course of a week they should start to germinate. So seeds need, what 3 things do seeds need to grow? Have a think. They definitely like listening to stories. It's not essential, but you can talk to your plants. It's very good for them. What 3 things do they need? Well, they definitely need light from the sun. They need, well, I just gave the game away a little bit when I said I'd water them. So they need water. What's the last thing they need? What do we all need? They need food. They need some nutrients, and they get that from the soil. So by putting your seed into the soil, giving it some water and putting it somewhere warm and light, it knows that it's a good time to start growing. See what you can grow. As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness that we learn light our hearts till we return.